Hi everybody, we're back in downtown Salt Lake, and I meant to record this when we were looking at the church office building plaza. There's two markers to see here, and let's start with this one. It says Eagle Gate 1859. Truman O. Angel, architect. Oh, and that's actually the architect of the Salt Lake Temple. And it has some other names. You can pause and read this. Erected in cooperation with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, David O. McKay, President, and Utah State Department of Highways. Okay, let's see. The Eagle Gate marked the entrance to the homestead of Brigham Young. Okay, see, there you go. These are things that I never knew, and that makes sense because you have Brigham Young's residence over there, the Beehive House and the Lion House. So this marks the entrance to his homestead. Okay, let's see. During the early settlement of the valley, Brigham Young was allotted the land lying athwart. That's a weird word. Athwart the mouth of City Creek Canyon. His New England heritage prompted him to desire the privacy given by a high wall around the property, as well as for the protection it afforded. Erected in 1859, the gate has through the years become the symbol of the man who built it. The original eagle and supporting beehive were carved from 5 laminated wood blocks and rested upon curved wooden arches, having their anchor on the cobblestone walls surrounding the estate. Large wooden gates closed the 22-foot opening at night, securing behind them the Beehive House, the Lion House, and the private offices between them. The beautiful flower gardens, the private school, and the barns, sheds, granaries, silkworm, cocooneries, orchards, and vegetable gardens. In 1891, the gates were removed and the entrance widened into a street. At that time, the eagle was sent east, electroplated with copper and raised on new supports, resting on cut stone pillars. In 1960, when the street was again widened, the wood under the copper plating had deteriorated and the eagle could not be remounted. This bronze gateway, its eagle, a scale enlargement of the original, has been erected as a tribute to the pioneers who founded this Commonwealth. Just another one of those things that I never knew about, even though I was born here in Salt Lake Valley and lived here, you know, until I was like 27. Yeah, I think I was 27 when we moved. I always knew about this, but I didn't know exactly what it was. Now I know. And there you have the eagle, and then on top of it, or the eagle's on top of the beehive beneath it. And then there's another sign. And by the way, what I want to do in this video is go over to the Brigham Young City Park. But there's also this. Here's another one of those Utah Pioneer Trails and Landmarks Association plaques. This is number 35. Erected June 10th, 1934. A private schoolhouse built by Brigham Young for his own children stood on this corner lot, 1860-1903. This early school was directed by Eli B. Kels, who, in soliciting additional students, announced in the Deseret News, December 12, 1860, as follows, quote, President Young not only intends it to be used for the education of his own family during the day, but purposes it to be thoroughly devoted to further educational purposes in the evenings, including the teaching of vocal music. Mr. David O. Calder will open therein 2 classes for young persons of both sexes, in order that a competent number may be thoroughly taught this simple and beautiful science, so that a uniform system of teaching may be adopted throughout all the schools of the territory. The produce of the valley will be taken in payment for tuition. And then I guess here's a depiction of what it looked like. Well, that is really neat. I always just assumed like you had the lion house and the beehive house and that was basically it. But no, there was a lot more. Private schoolhouse, and then the entrance to his homestead. I had no idea. No idea whatsoever. I'm so happy with my life right now. I love doing this. I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I get the feeling that I'm going to be learning quite a bit. There's the church office building again. By the way, we're on State Street. This is the road that goes up to the Utah State Capitol. Earlier today I made a video there, and you should be able to start to see the Salt Lake Temple over there in the background. So yeah, just down here a little ways we got the Brigham Young City Park, and this is somewhere that my family and I used to go all the time because we used to live up here in the avenues. Starting right here and going that way and going that way, you have the Avenues neighborhood of Salt Lake. It's called the Avenues because they're numbered. You have First Avenue and then Second and Third and so on. And then as you go that way, you have like A Street and B Street and C, and I can't remember how far it goes. But we used to live really close to here. And you know, on Sundays or whatever, we would just come down here with our kids. Back then they were just babies, and so we had a stroller, and it was a great time. Now, I was told that this is actually where President Brigham Young was buried. I haven't been able to research it, but I don't doubt it, especially from the person that told me. He knows what he's talking about, and he said that there was a headstone, but somebody stole it. Now, I don't know what we're gonna find once we go in here, but I'm excited. So there's the hill. As you go up there just a little ways, you have the Utah State Capitol. Let me turn around here. So Brigham Young Historic Park. Oh, I was calling it the wrong thing. I was calling it Brigham Young City Park. It's Brigham Young Historic Park. You walk in, first thing that you see is an image of President Brigham Young, 1801 to 1877. Honored here for his roles as pioneer, colonizer, governor, and religious leader, Brigham Young was best known as simply Brother Brigham. A beloved leader and wise counselor, he served as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 1847 to 1877. This park is a representation of the lives and industry of Brigham Young and the early pioneers. The traditions of family care and wise management they established in the beginning are still honored by the pioneers of today. The Young family estate, which included this site, extended north of Eagle Gate nearly 3 blocks. It included the eastern half of the block containing the lion and beehive houses, and continued east up the hill for about 2 blocks. Wow, that's interesting, because I guess that means that the place that we lived in is basically like at the edge of his homestead. The property was large enough to accommodate carpenter, show, and blacksmith shops, a pigeon house, a flour mill, barns, sheds, and corrals. What they called the upper garter had vegetables and fruit and an orchard of apple, peach, pear, and walnut trees, as well as beehives. The many buildings were needed to supply and care for the Young's extensive frontier family, help with church projects, and assist pioneers. In addition to the chores family members had, full-time employees and many newly arrived pioneers found employment on the estate. Okay, well, I guess let's go this way. Let's go this way. You have areas where you can sit and relax. And actually, it's kind of quieted down a little bit. I don't know if it's because traffic is slowed down. No, there's plenty of traffic over there. So once you get in here just a little ways, it starts to quiet down. And you can hear the water over here at this like fountain. There's a platform here. I'm not sure why. You'll have to let me know what this is used for or why this is here. Yeah, I like this little area. Again, I've never I never paid attention to these kind of things, but for the first time I'm realizing that there's like some statues back there. And then you have a couple right here too. But I never paid attention to these kind of things when we lived here. Wooden flumes often had to be built to harness the power of streams and rivers. Flumes took water from a stream's natural channel and directed it to the water wheel. Branch flumes were used to control the water flow that bypassed the water wheels. Keeping the flumes repaired was vital to the success of any industry using power generated by water wheel. And then they have one right here, a water wheel. I don't know how that compares to water wheels in the past. Is that like a standard size? I feel like I've seen some that are really big. I think mostly in movies and documentaries. I'm not sure. Water wheels commonly powered pioneer mills. The first mill on City Creek was a grist mill built by hand in October of 1847 to grind wheat that the pioneers had brought across the plains. The energy harnessed from canyon streams in the area powered many early pioneer industries. Blacksmith shops, furniture making, and clothing mills were among those to benefit. Isn't this nice right here? I love this. I love it. Man, it almost makes me want to move back to the avenues. We would also obviously walk over to Temple Square and spend time over there as well. But I mean, you can see why we loved coming to the Brigham Young Historic Park. I don't remember those steps being there. I think we only ever kind of like walked around this way. For my other YouTube channel, Christian Homestead, I have a sunflower as my logo, and this is where I took that picture. It was in Brigham Young Historic Park. It was over, there were like some sunflowers right over there. This was somewhat after I got home from my mission, like a few years afterwards. Got married, started a family, and my dad got me a digital SLR camera, a Nikon D50. And so, you know, ever since as soon as I got it, I started taking pictures of everything and anything. I love photography. And I'm so glad that I took that picture. And it's kind of perfect that we ended up moving to Kansas, the sunflower state. But now we're in Missouri. There's also a lot of sunflowers there. All right, we have another marker in the corner over here. And then there's kind of like a empty open area right there. Brigham Young's estate was surrounded by a 9-foot high stone wall, built to protect gardens, orchards, and buildings from canyon flooding. It also helped secure the whole property. Family members had keys for the conveniently placed gates, which were locked in the evenings. Remnants of the estate's original wall have been incorporated in the wall that remains here today. Oh. Remnants of the estate's original wall have been incorporated, I guess, into this right here. It makes me wonder if it's in the same spot or if it was like somewhere else and they brought it over here and then made this wall. But that's nice to know. And then it wraps around this way. I don't know how many more signs there are. I saw at least one other sign, but we're about to find out. And then we got a pioneer statue right here. It kind of reminds me of the one that's over at Winter Quarters. Not just because it's a hand cart, but just the way the figures look. It almost looks like the same. I doubt that it's the same artist, but it kind of looks similar when I look at the face. Well, we'll have to pay attention to that next time we go to Winter Quarters, which I plan to do probably within the next month or two. Now, you know what? The one at Winter Quarters, it looks a little bit more modern, and I'm talking about just like the style. I don't know how to describe it, but this looks just like classic sculpting. It's very like realistic, whereas at Winter Quarters, the statue there, like the human figures, they look a little bit more stylized. I don't know how to really explain that, but I'll point it out the next time that we're there. Okay, and then let's go take a look at these ones over here. I think this might be where the other sign was. You have someone there with a hammer and they're like cutting into the rock. Well, there's some little flowers that kind of look like sunflowers. I don't know what type of flowers those are. So let's take a look at that. I'm sure that the sign will go along with it. Okay, canyon quarries provided stone for many pioneer structures. Much of the sandstone used in homes, civic buildings, and the temple's first foundation came from Red Butte Canyon, just east of here. Little Cottonwood Canyon to the south supplied granite for the massive temple walls and for replacement of the weaker, earlier sandstone foundation. Okay. Yeah, granite is always talked about when, you know, we talk about the construction of the Salt Lake Temple. It's one of the key features of it. And not just the Salt Lake Temple, but the conference center, as well as the administration building, which has the offices of the First Presidency, Quorum of the 12, and I think some of the 70, like the Presidency of the 70. These new, the visitor centers or the guest buildings, as well as the new entrance or entrances, I don't know if there's two, to the Salt Lake Temple. They were built to, you know, match, and so they also have granite. Oh, here's another one. Okay, pioneer gardeners made the desert blossom as the rose. Brigham Young, in his vision of their new communities, urged immigrants and missionaries to bring plants from around the world. All kinds of flowers, fruit, and vegetable crops, medicinal plants, and fruit, nut, and shade trees resulted. Daily work in the garden was an integral part of pioneer life. And then you have this nice, kind of like a replica of an irrigation system in like a row of crops, a farm field. A reminder to please stay on the sidewalks, no problem. But yeah, it was this section right here where they had the sunflowers, where I took a picture of one of them. I think that may be all the signs. No, I see two more. I see two more. I'm wondering if one of them are going to mention the fact that he was buried here. We're about to see. It's kind of a dream of mine one day, maybe when I'm older, to live in a condo. Like, I would love to live on the top floor of that building and have an amazing view, not have to worry about garden work or a homestead. As fun as homesteading was when we were in Kansas, it is a lot of work. Even if you're not really doing anything with it, you know, you can't just let everything become weeds. I still had to mow the pasture. Especially since we lived on the edge of town. Like, I wanted the place to look nice, and you should probably do that anyway, even if you are out in the country. All right, well, let's read this smaller one first, and then look at the one that's on the wall. The city of Zion plat, for which this award was given, was designed by the prophet Joseph Smith, Brigham Young's predecessor. So again, that's referring to the city plat for the city of Zion in Independence, Missouri. The plat defines a mile-square city laid out on a grid. 3 15-acre blocks form the civic center. The surrounding 10-acre blocks are subdivided into half-acre blocks with one home per lot. Farms with livestock, barns, and stables circle the city. Okay. And then we got this. The American Institute of Certified Planners has designated the plat of the city of Zion as a National Historic Planning Landmark. That's interesting. Okay, the quote-unquote plat of the city of Zion, incorporated in a remarkable treaty on urban design addressed to the leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Joseph Smith on June 25th, 1833, guided the development of over 500 settlements in the Intermountain West. Wow, establishing a continuing commitment to the building of well-planned and culturally nurturing cities. Erected 1996, the American Institute of Certified Planners, the Society for American City and Regional Planning History, the Utah Chapter, American Planning Association. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess it doesn't surprise me that the plat plan for the city of Zion in Independence, Missouri would have been used not just for Salt Lake City, but for other cities and towns that were started by, you know, early members of the church. Now, I haven't really looked into it, but I know when you go to some of these other towns, like I think in Utah Valley, or when you go north to, say, like Layton, Farmington, Ogden, I feel like I've seen the way that their cities are laid out as far as like the street systems go. Maybe that, like, maybe you kind of see that with like the, you know, 100 north, 200 north, so on and so forth. You obviously have other cities throughout the United States that have a grid system. It's not like it's unique to Salt Lake City, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like I've seen it in other cities and towns, and I've kind of had that thought. But I guess I never really associated it with the plan for the city of Zion in Independence. It mentioned the plan, basically drafted June 25th, 1833. That was, I think, the revised plan. There were two plans. You had the original plan, but there were some mistakes made, and so Joseph Smith and I think Oliver Cowdery, they revised it, and so you had the revised city plat. But unfortunately, 1833 is when the Saints were expelled from Jackson County. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? They come up with the design, the plan for the city, but only a few months later the Saints are kicked out. And then later on in the process of time, they make their way to Utah, and then they start to realize some of those plans. Okay, well, this was a real treat, and I'm glad that I'm back here and I get to take a closer look and learn more. And I guess what I learned today is I didn't realize how extensive Brigham Young's property was. I always just thought that it was just the Lion House and Beehive House. I didn't really give much thought to him having more land or having a homestead. I certainly didn't connect the fact that it went from over there to, you know, the Eagle Gate, which was the entrance to the homestead, to over here, to however far it said. Like, it didn't say like 2 blocks basically that way. That's fascinating. You gotta love those loud motorcycles. Yeah, that is fascinating to me. And here we are in 2025. And, you know, just over there, the conference center, right there, the church office building, behind that, the Salt Lake Temple, and just everything that's here. It's, I don't know, I love it. And this is now a major American city after all these years, and like I said before, I'm stunned by how much change there's been since I lived here back in 2011. I have visited a couple times, and I've seen some of the growth, but this trip in particular, I feel like I've seen a lot more of it, and it's just kind of crazy. Of course,